from the river of...
Excuse me, I'm next in line. Move. Excuse me, I'm next in line. Watch out. Excuse me, I'm next in line. I said move. Excuse me, I'm next in line.
And today we're going to start off with some very surprising sports news across the board, right? So first and foremost, the Yanks have moved up to third, which sounds about right after a really bad start. But then why surprising news, the Mets are still in first? How does this happen? Are these guys playing baseball? Like, is the whole National League just like chilling, relaxing? Like, oh, there's a whole second half of a season. Like, what's going on here? Y'all letting the Mets win? Slacking. Then in hockey, we're talking about the Islanders in the playoffs. This is again weird news, but not just that. But they just won their first game today, so they're officially beating the Penguins in round 1 of the playoffs, ranked 4th, doing their thing. The Islanders, huh? This explains why the Rangers just fired their coach after 3 seasons of doing absolutely nothing but not being last. Because you know who was last? The Devils, right? And on this Sunday, I just made a lot of Christians happy. But we have basketball news more surprising than anything, right? And no, I'm not talking about Kobe getting to the Hall of Fame. That's a more so like he had to die for this to happen. Look, we're talking Kobe Bryant, one of the top players of all time, not just of his generation. Arguably, many would put him in their top 5 players of all time. Some in their top 3, and many would regard him as the only person who comes close to Michael Jordan. Anyone who says LeBron is as good or better than Kobe, let alone Michael Jordan, stop writing LeBron. He ain't. Period. But shout out to Kobe's family. Congratulations to you guys. If only he could have seen it sooner, you know? But to the current game, the Nets are placed in second place, which, sounds about right. I think some are very surprised they're not in first, but the 76ers are just kicking butt consistently in the East. But more surprising than anything else in the NBA, in sports right now, the Knicks are in 4th place. Like, they're not just currently seeded for the playoffs. They are currently seeded on the favorite side of the playoffs. They're not 5th, they're 4th. They're going to play 5th currently if we were going to, drop the game right now. But they're on the side that's like they should probably win. Probably. It's the most middle of the seats, right? It's just right there above the team. Like, they could be a game apart and just kind of like, oh, we'll give it a 51-49 ratio. But that's amazing. This is like newfound territory. I know as a Knicks fan, it feels like we won the championship when we just get in the playoffs. Now they're telling us we're in a position where we should get out the first round of the playoffs. Speechless, right? Like, holy wow. But that's it for sports right now. We're going to go on a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some of the stuff happening locally in media, and we're going to hit you with a ton of things that you should catch up on, watch, and all that. So, Charles, if you could, take us to our first break.
Hi, I'm Charles Aloma, and I want to thank you for watching the LDM Network. For more information on this show or any other show, please go to www.ldmnetwork.net. Again, that's www.ldmnetwork.net. And now, let's get back to our show.
never gives me a whole break. Gives me a commercial, maybe half of a song. I never just get a good 2 minutes. This is why I don't even leave my seat. I don't go get water. I don't go take a leak because I never know how long it's gonna be. Uh, but we have a couple different things happening locally. So first, De Blasio makes Open Streets program permanent, which means less roads for drivers, which I could care two craps about because guess who doesn't drive? But more open streets for people in a crowded borough that probably needs more open streets. So I'm all for it. I think it's great. He makes it a permanent law. So they're gonna keep the program running, and they're gonna try and have more. You'll find random streets like 19th Street blocked off at certain places, 14th Street. Sometimes they'll do something on like 57th or stuff like that. Just make it so that way there's less traffic, more stuff for people. Maybe even throw up like one of those random like fried cookie like events that they have. I don't even know what they call it because you have like the flea market that doesn't have it, and then you have this stuff that's like all these good eats and snacks and stuff. I don't know what you want to call it, but I love when it's there because it usually comes with a whole bunch of other good food. But I really love fried Oreos. If you know when the next one pops up, please tell me. I really do love fried Oreos. Also, the NYC teens are next up in line to get COVID shots, which I want to mention because something that's irked me in this past week is that the CDC now says if you got your vaccine, you don't have to wear your mask most places. Now, this should be like, yay! But why this irks me is that the CDC originally said that they weren't going to do that. Like, once you had the vaccine, you had to still wear a mask for several reasons. So, one being, they don't know how long the vaccine is going to last, which they still don't know, right? We still don't know if this is a permanent vaccine. We don't know if it's a year vaccine, 2-year vaccine, 5-year vaccine. Heck, in 6 months, we may find out, like, oh, yeah, all you people got to get vaxxed again. Don't know yet. 2, the vaccine was put in place for emergency use. Because of all the unknowns, all the variables, all the groups who couldn't, still doing testing, yada, 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 it's never been officially approved. And it's still, like, emergency use only, which means that we really don't know enough about it to know or be secure enough that, yeah, if you're vaxxed, you're good, right? But 3, you can still get COVID. This vaccination is supposed to help you beat it, but there are people who've been vaxxed who've actually caught COVID after getting the vaccine. So it's not 100% foolproof. Now, knowing these 3 things, being the reason why they told you to wear masks in the first place, well, let's think about this. Why would they tell you that now you can take off your mask most places? Well, 1, let's start off with the biggest fact of them all. Y'all weren't wearing masks in the first place. Why promote all this nonsense if people ain't going to listen regardless? Hell, if they're going to tell you not to wear a mask, maybe you'll actually wear a mask just to be like, nah, I just don't want to do what they say. So they're taking their chance and putting in place on this bet, all right? That makes sense to me. 2, they want to give some sort of incentive for people to get the vaccine, right? Like, if you're tired of wearing your mask, this, that, and the third, get the vaccine, you'll be perfectly fine, right? And this is really more so to draw out the minority people and the people who travel a lot because, well, they profit from having this vaccine made, sold, and used by these hospitals and pharmacies and such. So to get people to want it, to actually go and get it, puts money in their pockets. Let's just be real about it. It's not because they care about you and the safety of the environment. No, they just want more money. But the last reason is that the number of people who got the vaccine and have been livid, they still have to wear a mask. Despite the fact that I told you 3 reasons why they told you to wear a mask post-vaccine. All right? So they just don't want all the bad back and forth that they've been getting anymore. And so they're like, you know what? Screw it. You want a chance it, bruv. If you are vaccinated and you are not in one of the healthy age groups they don't suggest get the flu shot, continue to wear a mask. This is the young folk. This is the old folk. Just play it safe. If someone who's in the age group of like 22 to 56 is like, you know what, the CDC said whatever, I'm gonna listen to the CDC. You know what, bruv? Go ahead and chance it, because you're supposed to be healthy enough anyway to survive this nonsense before the vaccine. Remember when they were like, well, certain people may not be affected by this to such a high degree, and despite certain people in that age group getting affected, we really did see lower numbers in this healthy group, and I like to call it the no flu shot needed group, right? Like, elderly, little ones, they need the flu shot. The rest of y'all, if y'all die, y'all die. You're in that same group. So if you want to chance it, chance it. But everybody else, the older, remember, there's still not enough known about the vaccine. I'm not telling anyone not to get the vaccine. I'm not telling anyone to take the vaccine. All I'm saying is whether you take it, whether you don't, be safe. That is what I am suggesting. Go get the vaccine. If it can provide a level of coverage and we just don't have enough evidence to prove it, but it does that, you're better sooner. Go take it. If you feel that you need all the information before you take this drug, I back you. Don't take it. You got to be comfortable with whatever you're putting in your system. But whether you do, whether you don't, my suggestion is, despite how flimsy of an effectiveness that it is, right? If you're not wearing a 95, it's pretty much irrelevant. Wear a mask. And that's what irks me, because I've been seeing way too many people who I definitely know weren't vaccinated. Like, well, they said it's cool. I'm like, dude, I know you didn't even get the shot. Like, we talked about this 2 days ago. Well, you didn't take the Johnson & Johnson. Don't even lie to me. Like, you know, we all got them friends, right? The same friends who heard. Right, exactly. Nah, use the shampoo, bro. Like, come on, bro. But we all know those people, because we all know everybody, especially here in New York, where it's like, weed is legal, and they didn't read all the fine print. They would just heard, weed is legal, and when they get arrested, they're going to be like, weed is legal, and they're like, not like this, son. Not like this. That's all they're going to say. They're going to laugh at you. But yeah, so that's the thing that's been irking me this past week. So I want to switch it to some good news, and this is really random, but Harry Potter Butterbeer is now having a bar hitting the Flatiron District. So if you're someone who's Harry Potter obsessed, and there are tons of people in this city, tons of people in this world who are Harry Potter obsessed, there will be a new kind of like drink from the book/movie series. We don't talk about the play because basura, but there will be an attraction in the Flatiron District, along with the potion bar that they have. And I know I've heard that the potion bar isn't always worth the money from some folks. But, you know, I've heard people who absolutely love the experience, right? I really think it depends on how big of a Potterhead you are. So if you are a big Potterhead, this is probably something even more exciting for you. If there's somebody who just likes Harry Potter and wants to try it, I will always tell anybody to try anything that involves a bar. So, will I try it? Yes, because it involves a bar. And honestly, if I can find good beer, why not? Like, I don't care. Also, for those residents who are in the Lower East Side, you know that construction on, what was that, 2nd Ave, or what? No, not even, on 14th Street that just takes a year and a day because of Stuyvesant Town? Like, it just blocks the street over there past the L train. Yeah, that will be ending soon. The storefronts will be opening around there in a couple of weeks. So, you know, bear with it a little longer, folks. Stuyvesant Town storefronts right there on 14th Street should be finished with construction soon, and with some more stores to shop in, which, you know, after you added the Target over there, and I said Target for y'all who are just mad bougie about Target, yeah, it's just something more to go to, because I'm telling you, since that Target got there and got open, I was there a lot due to Kiki, when they started hiring and opening and all that. So ever since that thing opened, that block is finally full, like all the time. So add a couple more stores, and you have a little shopping area in Manhattan. We don't really do malls. So yeah, so go there, check it out, right there at the edge of Stuyvesant Town on 14th Street. And the mayor this week had made more news besides the open streets. He's just kind of cracking people up. He was mad at Chipotle. Now, the mayor being mad at anything is just what's funny. He, you know, after criticizing the cops before, he was praising them recently despite crime soaring up. Although, honestly, I have already gone over why crime's going up, and cops are kind of like, well, you tied our hands. But he then made me laugh because he was yelling about Chipotle. Now it's actually serious. He was at a rally with 32BJ. Whenever 32BJ comes out, anything SEIU comes out is normally because the workers are having issues. The workers need their rights protected. And so it was a serious thing, right? We have issues with the workers at Chipotle across the board, with how they're being treated, what they're getting paid, quality of life situations, right? So the mayor is going out and says he's going to boycott Chipotle. Now, I understand, the symbolism. I'm not someone who even goes to Chipotle, so I don't even feel bad about, spending my money there because I just don't. But when the mayor feels that he needs to not support Chipotle, it just sounds funny, right? The mayor coming out there like, I'm not eating Chipotle anymore. It is so lucky that he's not short and stubby because that would have just been hilarious. Like, you would have all just stopped. And if Rudy Giuliani had even done it with Little Pudgy Belly, that would have been great. That would have been absolutely great. But no, in all seriousness, Chipotle has seemed to be treating its workers bad, according to a lot of complaints lately. The union wants to help mobilize those people, and the mayor was supporting it. But it just sounds funny when you read an article that's like, the mayor boycotts Chipotle. You don't even want to read what it's about. You're just like, really, de Blasio? Just because it's him. Just because it's him of all people. So, yes, it is a good thing that he's trying to do. He's trying to, stand with his brethren and support the workers and yada yada. It sounds absolutely ridiculous when your mayor is boycotting Chipotle of all places, right? And then we have a couple of things happening here that aren't so great. So go back to that. And one of them is that Penn Station is going under a lot of renovations, especially with the new hub that's being built down there on 10th and 11th Avenue. I like the place. A lot of you have seen pictures of it on Instagram without knowing where exactly it is. I didn't realize how many New Yorkers didn't realize what area that was with the walking spiral building, right? And the new shopping center and all that. It's right there on 34th Street. It's just closer to the water. Like, y'all just need to walk down there. Go past the movie theater on 8th and keep walking like you're going to the Javits Center. Y'all just mad lazy. When I see people hop on the crosstown on 34th Street and 42nd, I laugh at you because, one, they hardly ever come. But, two, these are the only, I know it's the long part of the city, but they're the only sides worth freaking walking from side to side, right? You want to take the 66, the 72, the 79, whatever, in the upper town. If you even take the 14, I'm not mad at you. But 34th Street and 42nd, the best part of the city is right there. Walk it. Use your darn legs. Maybe I'm just too much of a neighbor at times. It stresses me out. But yeah, so this whole thing opens up over there. And the construction there has now affected Penn Station itself, right? And there was a lot of back and forth for years talking about what do we do to get rid of Penn Station and how do we renovate it? Do we have to do anything with Madison Square Garden, yada, yada, yada. A lot of construction is planned in the coming years for that 34th Street area, that Penn Station area, that keynote area of Manhattan around Herald Square, the big, Macy's on 34th Street where they did the Christmas movie, all that. All that area is about to be changing over the next 10 to 20 years. Just is in the works. It's in the plans. They're trying to figure it out what's going to be, kept the same because of what the historical rights or nonsense like that, and what's going to be changing, restaurant storefronts, this and the third. Just, it's going to be hectic. And it's going to be even more hectic when the homeless situation gets brought out, because y'all know 8th Avenue is for the bums. From probably from 30th Street all the way down to 36th Street. It's for the bums. I hate walking there at night. I really do. Not even because it's too dangerous. No, it's because everybody there's like, can I get a coin? Can I get $1? And Lord help you if you actually take out $1. It's worse than when you have gum in high school. Everybody's like, can I get one? Can I get one? Can I get one? The seagulls in Finding Nemo are less hungry than the bums for $1 on 8th Avenue. But one of the places getting involved in this is actually Hotel Pennsylvania. And so all the people who were trying to save the garden and all the people who were trying to save Penn Station are now trying to save Hotel Pennsylvania. And here's the thing. I think you have better grounds for saving Hotel Pennsylvania than you do the other two buildings. MSG, it holds significance in the world of sports, right? It's just one of those places where big moments have happened, probably will happen, and currently the Knicks are in fourth. I think that's a major moment in history. I mean, look at this team. You don't even know a name, and they're like holding it down, right? So, that's something to be said. But the fact of the matter is, it's not the original Madison Square Garden. That's what a lot of people don't know. So even though you want to claim historical relevance, its actual history is that it's already moved. So now you have a precedence to say we can move it again, right? Just put it in another part of the city. You can even see if you can move it down or towards the waterway or the other way. Whatever the case may be, it's moved before. It can move again. Penn Station is a transportation hub. As transportation modernizes and needs to move, advance, the population goes up, you have to expect changes. So yes, construction, reassembly, renovation, whatever you want to call it, will need to happen in a transportation hub. That was actually part of the reason, or the main reason, why they even wanted to do anything to Madison Square Garden in the first place, to make the construction easier. Valid. But why mess with the hotel down the block? And why I say that is, you got the Fuse building right next to there, right? You got a major train station on the other block. Why would we now mess with this one particular building if we're not messing with the two buildings next to it, if we're talking that it's because of development rights, right? And then the construction on this one building can interrupt the other two blocks. It doesn't make sense to me. And in fact, a lot of the fact that you want to construct on 34th Street with the amount of traffic that goes through there just doesn't make sense to me. The only place that should be going under any sort of renovation would be Penn Station in my book, but you have a much larger project involving realty stuff, whatever. It just doesn't make sense. It's unnecessary for that area. It just is. There's too much traffic in that area for you to tell me that there's an economic benefit. And I'm talking during COVID, right? There's an economic benefit for this to happen. If y'all wanted to do this nonsense, when you saw the streets were empty, you should have just gave construction guys a job and get this done in a year. Let's be real. The streets are full again. With or without masks, the streets are full again. So, no. And then to go after Hotel Pennsylvania, which like they're claiming this is a historical landmark. It's a very well-known building and a very well-known hotel. It gets a lot of traffic from tourists because it's but so far from 42nd Street. It's next to Penn Station, Madison Square Garden. Like, it's a hotel of note even to people not from New York or America. It just doesn't make sense. There's the joke, Hotel Transylvania was like, well, we should do this monster thing because they actually stayed at Hotel Pennsylvania. There's a joke about it. I don't know if it's true or not, but I was like, close enough. It works for me, right? It just doesn't. So hopefully these guys can protect this landmark because, like I said, you're not telling me you need the entire space of Madison Square Garden to continue your construction, right? That you're going to be developing Penn Station equally across, but you're telling me that it's the block that's pretty much the entrance into Penn Station? Really? That's it? Just the one? No. Just no. Because now you're affecting New York City Transit. And once you start affecting my trains, we got a problem. Point blank, period. On that note, we're going to go to our second commercial break, and when we come back, we got a bunch of movies and shows to catch up on. We're going to talk about it, all right? So see you in a few.
As mighty armies clash in a struggle for total domination, the scales can be tipped by one man who has the courage to confront his fate and make a choice that will decide the fate of the world.
Guys put a lot of smoke in today. Wow. But anyway, we expecting a real superhero? I don't think so. The real life superheroes are the ones that are helping out in their community today. And the LDM show will be there to bring you the events and stories to life. Do you know a real superhero? Let us know. But for now, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Also visit our websites for photos, videos, and updates. But until the meantime, hey, I gotta be out of here.
LDM Radio.
So we're back, and there's a bunch of stuff I want to get to. So I'm gonna try and get through as many things as I possibly can before the end of the show, and then I might wrap up with a couple of other things that have happened this week. So first, Demon Slayer Mugen Train that came out, right? This movie pretty much is ripped out of the manga. So for those of us who've read it, right, because I know I was someone who after season 1 of Demon Slayer was like, I know I've been delaying reading this, but I can't wait a whole another year for the movie. So I was really trying to wait for December of last year to read Demon Slayer. And you know what happened? The movie got pushed back. So you know what happened with that? Nah, I was like, I'm not waiting for this nonsense. I read all of Demon Slayer. An amazing series. Demon Slayer is a story about a boy named Tanjiro who is unfortunately welcomed into the world of demons when his whole family gets massacred except for his sister who gets turned into one. And he goes on a quest to get revenge and also save his sister. Where this movie picks up is from the end of season 1, and Tanjiro meets one of the 12 greatest swordsmen of Demon Slayers on a train as they're going on their next mission, and they're trying to find like the head demon to kill. Now, I'm not going to get too much into the details of the movie. What I'm going to do is just give you the ranking. It's a 4 out of 5. If you have read the Demon Slayer manga, for those of you who still don't know, manga is a Japanese comic. Literally, they reached into the manga and like pulled it out. So you know the story. Why I give it a 4 out of 5 is because Demon Slayer works better, I think, episodically, right? There are some episodes that are really cool because it's only 30 minutes. They tell the backstory and it feels good. They don't change this format, but what it does is make part of this movie a bit slow because there's a lot going on that you kind of need references for. And that's one thing that they don't really do is kind of like give you the full back of how all this goes, this, that, and the third. So you got to go into the movie with a little bit of knowledge. You can enjoy it as a solo film, but some of the stuff may not hit the same. So just knowing that not everybody's going to be full on anime as I'm talking about this, I gave it a 4 out of 5 because only the anime heads will really understand everything going on. But for you who are Demon Slayer fans, if you didn't read the manga, this is going to be great. It's the next, literally the next few chapters, the next story arc, and they get through all of it and, that. So I do recommend that you watch that. It was a great movie. Like always, the art is sick. The fights, man. The most exciting thing about Demon Slayer coming up is that the fights get that much better. I can't wait to see it animated just because the manga version of the fights is sick, right? So if the manga versions have been good so far, and then we see the animation, we're like, wow. Imagine when the fights get sick with the same art styles and they take it a whole nother level. There are moments in this movie that were just left me like, yeah, they nailed this. I will say, though, that the action sequences still do not keep up with My Hero Academia movies. Those guys just take it to a whole nother level, right? Like, everybody knows if you were not even a fan of the second My Hero movie, you were a fan of that final fight scene. Hands down. No sound, and you're still like, wow. Exactly. This never reaches that level. I will admit that, but it definitely holds a high standard of quality. Still, I argue that Demon Slayer is probably one of the best animated projects in the last 10 years. Just a beautiful styling, straight out of a video game and updated. So I do recommend that. Some of y'all still haven't seen Mortal Kombat. How? Like, everybody's been talking about it. Now, somebody put a post that I think I posted on Instagram that was like, if you expected a storyline with Mortal Kombat, you know, and not just blood and guts, that's on you. Which is true, to a certain extent, considering that they were literally ripping out the video game storyline. So yes, if you were expecting a storyline, you were expecting a storyline from the video game. Like, I'm sorry, but, you know, again, though, I will give it a 3.5 out of 5. Why? Because I knew it's Mortal Kombat, bro. I don't know if you ever seen the original or, like, the 2 or 3 other movies that followed it, but, like, it's Mortal Kombat. We wanted to see the fights. Now, some would argue that the new character didn't quite fit in the way you wanted it to. And, like, the whole story has changed over the years, where now Scorpion is a good guy. They've taken the attention off of Liu Kang, but they've been like, if you played the video games, if you followed at all, they've been leading to this for a while, right? This isn't the Mortal Kombat that I personally wanted. I wanted something with Johnny Cage already in it. Why is Kano the comic relief? I was mad about that. Still mad about that if you can't hear it in my voice. But other than that, you know, there were some good cheesy, you know, flawless victory, you know, moments like that from the game that were thrown in there. But all in all, this is also the first movie in a series. Technically, I think it's kind of like a prequel, because if I remember the game order, we didn't get some of this storyline in, like, Mortal Kombat 6 or 7 or whatever the case may be, where they're deriving this from. So where this is going to lead into is a big tournament, including the gods. You're going to have the Outworld, another world, if the project continues. And from what I'm hearing from a lot of folks who have watched it, because, like, who hasn't yet, right? Well, except for some of y'all but people like this movie overall. If you went into it expecting the blood and the guts, you got enough blood and guts. You got some good martial arts thrown in there, a couple of great effects thrown in there. I think this can only get better. Some may say that this is a insult, but I think it's a compliment. It felt like a better YouTube fan movie, right? And again, I say that as a compliment because I've seen many a live action movie not meet YouTube quality, right? There's a One Punch Man fan film that everybody talks about where they're like, this is exactly what we want. And these are just like 3 guys at home making their own fan film. People wanted Mortal Kombat, the TV series, which I think had Michael Jai White in it, which was like a YouTube series. You know what I'm saying? When they made the new Darker Power Rangers, it's because people loved the one with James Vanderbeek. YouTube projects come from real fans. And that's why the quality is that much better. They don't have the same budgets as big studios, but yet they make a better quality as far as the animation, the digital and digital effects. They make a better script. They give the tone that people want, whether it be age appropriate or not, is not the question. They give the vibe that the audience, the actual fandom wants. So this kind of felt like it had all of that wrapped up into it. I think their only mistake was trying to do something to promote new stuff in the game. But guess what? That's business, baby. Like, they're just trying to make more money. And I'm not mad at that. I'm just mad you didn't give me Johnny Cage. That's my boy. You gave me Johnny Cage's powers, but with Sonya. We don't care about Sonya. No one cares about Sonya. Sonya's relevance is Johnny Cage. Heck, people like Jax more than Sonya. At least he has the cool metal arms. That was my other thing. The metal arms didn't look that great. Like, I would have at least gone with DC Cyborg metal arms, but you know, that's just me being nitpicky. But yeah, all in all, 3.5 out of 5. It is a must-watch. A series came out on Amazon Prime called Them. And the long and short of it is, we get it. Black people can do scary movie twos. But that's what it always feels like for me, right? When we saw Get Out, it changed the game. I think the message that was put into there hit hard, right? But it went beyond just the message. There was a lot of just cool concepts in the horror of it. Like, if we take away even the color factor, but just the fact that in this society, the rich are kind of like taking these lower people and mind manipulating them into their slaves through this teeth thing and putting them in, the dark space. There's a lot to the movie that just works, right? Now you add in the racial factor to it, and now you give the movie more significance. But on its own, whether they're rich black people, poor white people, or rich white people and poor white people, it works. The concept of the overall movie works. You throw in the racial factor, and now it hits hard. Then we get Us. And we're still wondering what the point of it was. A lot of references, a lot of, like, symbolisms and this and whatever, and metaphor, and yada, 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 yada. Get it. What was the point, bruv? They're just standing there at the end of the movie. You don't know if the people live, if the people die, if the place is burning. Is it just in America? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was kind of cool until you figure out the whole twist in the last, or not even the last, the first 20 minutes. I'm sorry. I watched that movie for 20 minutes, and the moment the girl goes, you're like, oh, that's the original. Sorry if I ruined the movie for you. It's been out for how long? But, like, it just kind of hit me real quick, because when you do that whole scene with the girl talking, and then later on the girl doesn't talk at all, right? And they're like, well, she has to figure out how to speak. But meanwhile, the rest of the movie, they're telling who can speak and who doesn't. I don't know if it's me just because I've seen so many movies or because my IQ is over 10. But, like, I was just waiting for there to be a point. Never actually happened. The references I got, metaphors I got, but no. Them is essentially, like, for me, it felt like a watered-down version of those two movies. Is it bad? No. Did I feel like everything about it I've seen before? Yes. And recently there's been a couple of other black horror movies that have had concepts that this movie has touched. So there was nothing absolutely original about this movie. Or series, I should say, on Amazon Prime. So because it just didn't feel original, I give it 2.5 out of 5. I can't tell you to watch it wholeheartedly. If you're someone that wants to support all black projects, it's not a complete waste of your time. If you're someone who enjoys some horror, yeah, this is probably up your alley for kind of that American Horror Story kind of feel to it without the overuse of sarcasm. But all in all, we've seen it before. I literally felt like I watched a combination of all the other black horror films I've seen in the last 5-6 years. That's how it felt like. Turned into a really long, drawn-out series unnecessarily. So, skip it. I went back and watched something called The 100. And I watched it because when it aired week to week, it could never really keep my attention. Now that the option is to watch the whole thing, being able to binge watch it, that ability kind of always, makes it easier for me sometimes because it just flows, right? You're watching it continuously. The story makes sense. The 100 used to run at a time where I think it used to be on one night where wrestling was on, then it moved to another night. It was hard to keep up with. It didn't seem worth it. After about season 3, just stopped making a lot of sense anyway. They already told you after season 1 they were splitting off from the book. So, like, it was all that. So I finally watched all the way through, and I gotta admit, it was a pretty solid series. Only thing is, it's not for everyone. So I give it a 3 out of 5, right? You got to be kind of into sci-fi. You kind of got to understand that, like, when the show is airing, they're trying to figure out how to extend each season. So sometimes it feels like everything should be over, and then, they're getting too many viewers. So CW's just like, hey, come up with something else. And, if you take it by season like that, it hits a lot easier. Because if you try to make sense out of all of it happening, you're like, they should have died like 20 billion times before. And yes, they should have. They make references to the number of times that they should be dead. So I can just accept all of it as just, it's sci-fi. You know what I'm saying? Just leave it at that. Fast and Furious Spy Racers dropped another season. And I got to give it a 3 out of 5. I wanted so much more for this series because it started off really, really cool. And I feel like after they went down to like Colombia, it just kind of been dragging, right? Essentially, they brought out a cool concept where like the whole agency turns against them, but I feel like they didn't do enough with it. Like I feel like if this had been a longer season, it would have been a lot better. I felt like they kind of rushed it to like make sure that if they're good or if they're bad, real quick. And they didn't really get to play that borderline of are they not really well. So which made me worry about if Spider-Man would do that. I know it seems really random, but they just they just did the whole thing where like at the end of the last movie, he's gonna be on the wanted list. So now he's gonna be the good guy who's a bad guy kind of a thing. I think that concept can get messy, and Spy Racers is a perfect example of where that happens. All in all, it's a kids series, so because it's a kids series, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I don't think kids will actually have the same issues adults would, whereas beforehand I thought adults could watch the series with their kids. So now it's time for mommy and daddy to be like, okay, this is your show now, because you will be like, nah, this is corny. So, you gotta know when to move on. Hopefully your kids will too. Next is a series called Blade Burst Rose. I like Beyblade. I'm surprised they found a way to keep it running for so many years. Unlike Pokemon, it didn't really seem like they could. And then the thing about Beyblade is that they bring back their old champions too, which normally 9 out of 10 times I think can work in a series like this, like Pokemon, that's like Digimon, heck, even like Yu-Gi-Oh, right? But this particular series likes to tell you that the new way of them dueling or battling is stronger than the last form of battling. The other champions never mastered the new forms. So how are they still top of the world if they can never master these new forms that these new guys are supposed to be stronger with? Just the math don't add up. And then you have to remember, it's kids anime. So you just gotta have to let it rock and go with it. And if you take it for what it is, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. It is a fun watch for itself as a season. The new hero is really loud like always. He has a good supporting cast. The growth is a lot better than in some of the other seasons. So I thought it was pretty cool. So I give it for that. It's great for your kids. My biggest surprise in the last few weeks has been a show called Zero. One, because it's Italian about a black person. Super weird, right? But it actually goes somewhere. I first when I'm watching this, right, I'm thinking it's gonna be a French film. There's been a lot of movies that are French with black leads, right? But this was Italian, so that threw me off. Then it was a series. And then what's cool about it is a lot of these European series aren't necessarily really, really long, right? And I'm talking about minutes per episodes or length of, or like how many episodes there are in the season. So what's cool about this series is that you get this kid who stumbles into the fact that he has abilities, right? And in doing so, decides to try to use these abilities to save the world. Now, what I loved is that this guy, he's in the ghetto of a major Italian city. He's, of course, of a different ethnicity as far as, like, he's from, I think, Northern Africa, and they moved to Italy. But his family has a lot of stuff he didn't realize about him as part of his history. And the more and more that he comes to terms with these powers of his, the more involved he gets in protecting his neighborhood. He falls in love with the wrong girl situation. There's some bad business practices going on. His crew of misfits get into a bunch of very dangerous situations. There's a bunch of Spanish gangsters involved. There's a lot going on here. And in the end, it's really the story of a blurred, a black nerd, who gets to live out the superhero fantasy that he's always wanted because he used to draw, he draws a comic series, a manga series, to be exact. And his big goal is just kind of make it out the hood and pursue this manga career in a nearby European country. But because of him becoming the hero that he always wished to be, he realized he needed to protect his neighborhood. It's a concept that I wish more celebrities would actually use, right? We get a lot of celebrities talking about where they come from, not exactly about coming back, right? And although it's not exactly being a superhero, you are an idol. You are someone who seems larger than life, an entity who means so much more just by existing. And if you have that capability, power, and status, how about you bring it back home? We all make fun of Kanye, but Kanye does try and show up for Chicago. You know what I'm saying? We need more people like that. We don't just need to hear, oh, this person's from so-and-so and they got out the hood. All right, they got out. Are they giving back? Are they trying to take others with them? And this kid figured out once he had some abilities to try and better his community, he joined his gang of misfits and they try to do their thing to save their hometown. I love it. In short, that's the series right there. The rest of it is all extras. They make all goodies to make the story unique. But you got a kid finding a way to save where he comes from. Can't be mad at that at all. It's a great story. And it's very entertaining. It's good dubbed or sub. Go ahead and give it a watch. Another series that dropped recently, Shadow and Bones. It had a lot of hype. It had a lot of annoying accents. Had a lot of drawn out stories. I gotta give it 2.5 out of 5 just because I've heard good reviews from others who've watched it. But honestly, my personal opinion was it was whack. It was corny. It was whack. It took forever to actually get to the point of the show. It was whack. Best part about it was there's some cute girls on the cast. It is what it is. That's literally how I got through, is that there's some cute girls on the cast. But as a show, nah. Now, I watched a documentary series, Life in Color, with David Attenborough. Right? I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I gotta give it a 3 out of 5 though, because I feel like between the 3 episodes there are certain facts that are stated over and over and over again, right? So it's just like, yeah, bro, we know you told us last episode, but all in all, the concept, the stories, the different animals, there's certain things in there that you don't know. And I'm someone who watches a lot of animal documentaries, so of course maybe my bias is a little bit that, like, yes, I've heard this a million times before, but there are some fun facts in there that I didn't know, which is always a mandatory thing for me. If this is a documentary about something that I've already, with a whole bunch of facts I already know, no. It wasn't exactly a boring watch. It's just that he's very adamant about certain creatures and talking about them and their whatever, and he gets very focused on it. So you'll hear the same animals multiple times. Just be prepared for that. But other than that, there are some unique things, different animals across the world, different species. And this is a pretty cool look at how color and life are cohesive in the animal kingdom. It may not be the subject matter for everyone, but I'm kind of a geek at times, so it worked for me. On Hulu, I didn't realize that there was a Scooby-Doo movie called Daphne and Velma that doesn't involve Scooby-Doo at all. Let's just say I understand the girl power moment they wanted to have, but come on, bruh. Scooby-Doo without Scooby-Doo? You can take away Fred and Shaggy, and you really can't take away Shaggy from Scooby, but I'll give you that. If you wanted to do Velma, Daphne, and Scoobs, I would watch that. But this whole thing just felt like it was so, like, it was missing everything. Can't do Scooby-Doo without Scooby-Doo. But I feel like maybe there's some young girls out there who would like this. So 2.5 out of 5, just off that rip, because, you know, it's 2021. But all in all, this isn't a 2021 movie, and it needs Scooby-Doo. Now, Disney Plus has very few series that really grab my attention. One of them has completed, and that's Secrets of Sulphur Creek. I thought the show was really cool. Now, I know it's targeted towards kids, but, like, it involves time travel. It involves, you know, like, what would happen if you meet your parents. There's some racial issues involved because it involves time travel. A bunch of secrets, but the adults being kept in this and third. There's ghosts involved and such. Like, it feels like a show that's for kids but above kids, which means it feels like a 90s show. And I loved that. It had a great feel. The casting was good. I feel like I couldn't solve the mystery ahead of time. And I think that's the most important part, right? When you actually feel like watching the show will give you answers rather than, oh, you can figure it out and it all ends up being predictable. So this was a fun ride. It was a fun, enjoyable ride. I look forward to a possible season 2. I want everyone to watch it. But again, this is a show that's supposed to be towards kids, so some of it doesn't get as good as you would want, right? Like if this was a real horror series, if this was a PG, even a PG-13 series on a PG series, I feel like they can dive a little bit more. This felt like a slightly darker version of a Goosebumps TV series. You know what I'm saying, from back in the 90s? It felt like a slightly more intricate story than Are You Afraid of the Dark kind of a thing. But all in all, it was a good watch. I enjoyed it completely. I recommend everyone watch it if you have Disney Plus. And there are a couple more coming. Once they complete, I will talk about them. Netflix dropped a story about a black samurai called Yusuke, not Yusuke. All right, for you people who can't pronounce Japanese stuff. Oh, Yusuke. I heard one fool say, "Yeah, that new Yusuke." What? They're not gonna call a show "You Suck." So, it's not exactly what you're gonna expect. There is more of a supernatural story than people think this is gonna be historical fiction. Not quite. Yes, there was a black samurai. I mean, if you can believe Tom Cruise was the last one, right? Yeah, there really was a black samurai. But it is a good ride. I think if anything, the supernatural stuff doesn't necessarily help at the start and kind of hurts a bit of the storytelling in the end. But all in all, I enjoyed the series. I enjoyed the ride. I like the way they did the show. Pacing isn't too big of a problem, and I feel like in these projects it has been. So I give it a 4 out of 5. I was thoroughly entertained. I feel like there's just going to be a little confusion for some people. Point blank, period. Nothing against the creators. You just got to know the type of audience that watches these shows. And I'm in the forums, and some of the stuff that seems so like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. People are like, so why did this happen? And whatever. And all I can be like, did you even watch it? So yeah, knowing that that's going to happen, Yusuke, good show. Best show. Hands down, without a doubt, I have no complaints whatsoever, goes to Amazon Prime's Invincible. If there is a flaw in this show, is the fact that that they're going to set up the title of the show in some way, and it's always super corny. But guess what? It's a comic. It's supposed to be corny. So, yeah, I love this show. You watch it at first, you're like, this is kind of cool. Oh my God, this guy and his powers, da-da-da. And by the end of it, you're like, did that just happen? Oh, wow. And what? The biggest comment I got was like, so wait, that dude came out of nowhere? Like, he could have solved all these issues if he just spoke to Homeboy in the first place instead of just dipping off? And everybody's kind of like, I mean, he could have helped them. But, man, the character Invincible is far from invincible. I've never seen somebody so strong get his butt beat so much, except for when Superman's anywhere nearby a green rock. But, like, this story is good. It's intricate. I won't say that it isn't somewhat predictable, right? Like, I knew everything about the father ahead of time, especially when he goes and does that thing with their Justice League, right? You already knew what it was because he keeps talking so much about his people. So, I can't say it's all like a shock and awe as far as the overall story, but man, when stuff happens, like when they get to the points that you may have reached a conclusion yourself, it still hits hard because the actual graphics going on are awesome. This is a real comic brought to life. It looks like it would in a comic, but really moving, and not that weird stop motion thing that Marvel does with some of its stuff. No, like this just looks like a moving comic in the best way possible. I love the art. I love the story. I love the fight sequences. I love the characters. It's really, really good. Absolute perfect score. There's nothing wrong with it. Anybody should like the show Invincible, and if you don't, you're crazy or you're dumb. One or the other. I have no problem saying that. You don't even have to be a comic fan and superhero. Nah, this show is good. It's good for drama. It's good for action. It's good for a comedy. It's good for everything. Just watch it. Amazon Prime, Invincible. And I'm not big on Amazon Prime. A lot of their shows are very hit or miss. When they're good, they're good. But when they're not, I feel like wasting my time. Like them. Uh, now, fun movie, Guns Akimbo. Didn't know when this movie dropped. It came out in the last year or so. Daniel Radcliffe is essentially a nerd stuck with guns to his hands, having to save his girlfriend. For those of you who don't know who Daniel Radcliffe is by name, because you just don't understand or are involved with pop culture at all, kick butt action hero. Long way of talking to owls and fighting with a stick. But I loved it. It's corny, it's cheesy, it is one of those straight to DVD type of things that you wish hit theaters. It was good. It's on Hulu, Guns Akimbo. Loved it. And then 2 recent drops in this past week were The Upshaws. Mike Epps doing a TV show. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5. It was too much. Like, I don't know how else to say it. It was too much. It was so many unnecessary things, especially after dropping after the Jamie Foxx series, which was actually good. It was just too much. There's baby mama drama. There's relationship issues. We were on a break kind of stuff. Bad car dealership nonsense. And how this dude got it out of prison, found Jesus. Just too much going on at once. I love Wanda Sykes. I love her character. It was funny seeing her play a straight female. But all in all, it was just too much going on. And I love Wanda Sykes. And this is her baby. I know what she can do. I know what she has done. And I know it can be better. Maybe if her name wasn't co-signed on it, it was just Mike Epps, it would be my expectations. But when I see Wanda Sykes' name on something, I want to laugh. And I didn't find myself laughing as hard as I should have. Point blank period. So 2.5 out of 5. And last but not least, the big release for all the geeks, Castlevania Season 4. This is what I will tell you about it. I liked this season. I did. I honestly did. I don't feel it was as good as Season 2. And I feel it was better than Season 3. It seems like every other season actually gets to some good stuff. Action sequences are here. Concepts are here. But my biggest issue with any show is pacing. And I don't know why it takes this show forever to feel like it actually gets somewhere. When it does, it is by far amazing. But a lot of talking, some of it not even making too much sense, even trying to follow the storyline. If you love the games, you'll love the show. If you like a slow drama, it's good. But there are some amazing action sequences in this thing that like really just like the priestess steals the show for me, right? This is a show that has vampires fighting with swords, demons, skulls, psychic powers, all this stuff. This priestess comes in with elemental abilities, lightning, fire, a little bit of wind, ice, water kind of thing. Man, she pulls some stuff that Aang would be absolutely in awe of from Avatar. Some of the combos she was coming up with, the fire into like these spiked ice things and then the lightning all over the place. And man, when the female character is stealing the show in a geek thing, you know she is the total kick butt. And I mean, she kicks butt. I'm watching everybody else do their thing, but I'm waiting for her moments because I'm like, what is she going to do with this stuff next? Her power seems not even limited in other parts of the story, but like you wonder how far she can take it. And man, no disappointment at all. The final fight definitely felt like it was straight ripped out of the video game too. I can't really say it was anticlimactic because it felt like it was straight out of the video game, but the 2 fights that preceded it were so much more epic that I kind of made it, which is another reason I got to take another half point off. So I got to give this a 3.5 out of 5. Pacing was an issue, and the final fight wasn't as good as it should have been for the final fight of this series. Like I said, getting to places in this series was kind of meh, but when stuff goes down, it goes down. That's why the final fight, that should have been godly. because this whole series was not disappointing in when people were getting hands thrown. Like, it was amazing. So if you want some good action, you know, what I will tell you is to watch the way I like to watch stuff sometimes. Just fast forward to the talking, bro. Don't let it confuse you. Just get to the good stuff. All right? On that note, it's been another episode of Will's Review.
Excuse me, I'm next in line. Move.